the mantra to Padmasambhava. Om Ahum Vajrahu Padmasiri Hum. Do all of you know, probably not all of you know the mudra that goes with it. So, I'll just start giving the mantra, and then you can try and do the mudra. Sometimes it's confusing in the beginning because you almost need to practice it for a while at home. So if you feel it's too confusing, just don't do the mudra. Close your eyes if you like, just go to the mantra. But I'll just do the mudra sometimes so you can at least learn it, those who don't know it. I'm not saying you always have to do the mudra with the mantra, but it's nice sometimes to do it. Om The Buddha I am, the Ascended Master Gautama Buddha I am. I come for multiple purposes this day. I come first of all to give an action to the European continent to multiply what you have brought to the altar during this conference. Because you have exceeded the potential for the conference, I am able to step in and bring forth the judgment of the Buddha of certain fallen beings that we had not planned could be removed at this time. But because of your willingness to step up and transcend the consciousness embodied by these fallen beings, it has been possible for me as the Lord of the world to step in and say that these beings shall now be removed from the 4 levels of matter over the European continent. This requires, as we have said, that there are those who have reached a certain level of consciousness comparable to that which the fallen beings had attained before they fell. And there are some of you who have attained this, and there are others, some not affiliated with this movement on the European continent, who have attained a sufficient level that this can be done. Yet it still requires the intercession of the Lord of the world to make this a manifest reality. And this is not a mechanical consequence of what people have done. It is a gift that I have decided to give based on the purity and of the intention and the hearts of yourselves and many other people in embodiment in Europe. You will often think of the Buddha as sitting, as you see the messenger sitting in a cross-legged position with closed eyes and a slight smile, seeming detached from the world. This is an image I have given in order to help people at a certain phase of the spiritual path extricate themselves from the intense struggle created by the fallen beings. The fallen beings and the dark forces have of course attempted to pull people into this struggle and to keep them there indefinitely. So it was necessary to bring forth ideas and thought forms that could help people attain that non-attachment to the demons of Mara, so they would not be tempted into a reactionary pattern. Nevertheless, I want you to know that as the Ascended Master Gautama Buddha, I hold a spiritual office for the earth, the office of the Lord of the world. And as a result of this office, I am perfectly aware of everything that is happening on earth. I know the suffering of all people in embodiment. I feel the compassion and the love for them. For I know also that they are extensions of the one mind, that the Buddha nature is in them. I am, of course, still in the Ascended of consciousness and therefore not attached to people's experiences. But I do experience what people experience. This is part of my office. You might look at it as a burden, and it would be a burden from the unascended state of consciousness. But it is not a burden from the ascended state of consciousness. This I would discourse on because it is almost impossible when you are in embodiment to resolve this seeming paradox. How can the Buddha experience what people on earth experience and not be burdened by it? You yourselves can cultivate this ability, not quite to the same degree as when you are ascended, but you can cultivate it. It is a matter, as we have touched upon earlier, of realizing that everything that happens in the matter realm is like a movie projected on a screen. It is a matter of realizing what science to some degree has attempted to achieve, that it is possible to look at what happens on earth in an objective or detached manner, where you do not judge, you simply see what is without applying a value judgment of should this or should this not happen. Now again, I know that this instantly engenders a reaction from the collective consciousness, because they will say, are you then saying that everything that is happening is okay? That there are not things happening on earth that should not be happening? Can you really say that the Holocaust is just an event like any other event? Are you saying that it doesn't matter whether it happened or did not happen? But do you see, this reaction comes from the consciousness that is attached, and therefore pulls you into the reactionary pattern where the fallen beings want to keep you indefinitely. An event on earth is just an event. There is, as we have touched on before, a fundamental difference between the event and your perception of it. There are people who believe that before they themselves can be free of the earth, certain changes need to happen on earth. Certain manifestations cannot be here, or they cannot be at peace, or they cannot be free. But you will not ascend from earth until you free yourself from this pull. You who are in embodiment today should not count on waiting until the earth is in some perfect state before you ascend. For the foreseeable future, there will be many imperfections on earth. So unless you want to postpone your ascension for a very long time, you need to realize that you will have to ascend, even though the earth is not in a perfect state. And so how do you ascend when there's imperfection in the physical octave? You do so by recognizing the difference between the event and your perception of it, and then taking command over your perception. I see from my office of the Lord of the world is that I see an event from the outside and the inside at the same time. I am experiencing what the people involved with this event are experiencing, how they are reacting to it. But I am also seeing the event from the outside, from the objective, detached perspective. And so I see what most people do not see, namely, that no matter how the event takes form, and no matter what meaning people project onto it, no matter how they react emotionally, mentally, and at the identity realm, it is all part of the forward movement of life. This does not mean that an event such as the Holocaust had to happen. It does not mean that the Ascended Masters wanted it to happen. It does not mean that I'm saying this was a beneficial event. It was obviously an event that created deep wounds in the souls of many people. And those wounds are keeping them trapped in the reactionary pattern. Yet, it is still part of the forward progression of life in the sense that those who will not learn directly from the Ascended Masters must learn by seeing the Mother Realm outpicture as physical events their state of consciousness. And even though the actual events can be absolutely horrible to experience, it is the only way that people learn when they are not open to learning from above. When you are not open to learning from the Father element that we of the Ascended Masters represent to Earth, you must learn from the Mother element. And therefore, the most horrible event on Earth is an outpicturing in matter of a very horrible, unbalanced state of consciousness. And by having it outpictured in matter, it becomes far more difficult for people to ignore or deny it, as they have been ignoring or denying that state of consciousness for a very long time before the physical event had been carried through the three higher levels and crossed into the material realm. So I see that whatever happens is in a sense necessary, because since the people were not able to a higher form of learning, it was necessary for their liberation that they saw the physical outpicturing of the consciousness behind it. I also, as the Lord of the world, have no attachment and pass no judgment on which path an individual or even a group of people, even humankind as a whole, should or should not follow towards their liberation from matter. How can I pass such judgment when I respect free will? And when I have taken the vow that I will hold space for the life streams on Earth and thereby make it possible for them to outpicture any state of consciousness as a physical reality. Do you understand that the Earth is not a high planet? There are many higher planets where the wars and the torture that you see on Earth could not be physically manifest. Matter itself on those planets has been raised to such a level that it could not even take on these forms that you see on Earth. The elementals would refuse to manifest such forms. On Earth, it is possible for such forms to manifest. Why is this possible? Because we of the Ascended Masters give many opportunities to the beings who have become trapped in duality. And so, after I made my ascension from this earth, I could have moved on. I could have said, enough with this earth. I do not want to be associated with this planet anymore. Or I could have said, enough with a certain manifestation of darkness on earth. I will not allow this anymore. But what would that have meant? It would have meant that a large number of life streams would have had to be removed. And this would have made it more difficult for them to grow. Because the earth is at a certain level where it provides an opportunity to grow for a large number of life streams who are in a sort of in-between state. And so I decided after my ascension to accept the office of the Lord of the world and set a certain level that would allow the largest number of life streams to receive an opportunity to grow in the schoolroom of Earth. This could have been done in many other ways, but for a number of complex reasons, as a result of a complex calculation on my part, I set a certain level. Therefore, I have held the balance, so to speak, that has made it possible for some of these very dark events and manifestations to take place. You may think this is not spiritual, not enlightened, not what the Buddha should be doing. But then you are looking at the Buddha not with the mind of the Buddha, but with the mind of the anti-Buddha. I am a teacher. If you will not listen to me directly, I could choose to reject you as a student. Or I could do what I have decided to do, hold the balance, hold the space that will allow you to outpicture your state of consciousness to a terrifying degree. And so, this was my decision to make. It is my decision to adjust based on the growth of the people in embodiment. And as I said in the beginning, I have decided to make an adjustment whereby the level of the lowest possible consciousness in the European continent has been raised higher by several degrees. We have talked about the 144 levels of consciousness, and we have said that as humankind progresses, this level will be raised higher. So for the European continent, the level has been raised so that it is no longer possible for life streams below a certain level of consciousness to embody here. This is not yet a planetary phenomenon. It may become so in the years to come. We shall see what can be accomplished in the United States this summer. It is, my beloved, a significant victory for the European continent. It is a significant shift. You cannot overestimate the importance of raising the level of consciousness. It is, however, necessary for you who are the spiritual people to continue doing the work, because even though a certain group of fallen beings can be removed, they have left traces of themselves in both the physical, the emotional, the mental, and the identity realms. These traces are in people's consciousness. You understand that what has happened today is that I have raised the level so that beings in the state of consciousness that precipitated the Nazi death camps can no longer embody on Earth. Auschwitz is not possible today. Yet, the many people who were hurt directly by the concentration camps, and the many people who have been hurt indirectly by knowing about these events, are still holding on to and feeding a certain matrix in the three higher bodies. So, as you can see that there is a museum in the physical of Auschwitz and other concentration camps, there is a parallel in the three higher bodies. And although it would not be possible to manifest the death camps today, this does not mean that the earth is free from the records of it. And so there is certainly a need to make the calls for this, for the records to be consumed, for the energies to be transformed. But there is also a need for forgiveness, because, as we have said, people will not be free until they forgive and let it go. We have given you teachings about how you create spirits through your consciousness. So you understand that today a certain group of fallen beings have been removed. Those fallen beings are not on Earth anymore in any of the four octaves. But the spirits that people have created because of the events precipitated by these fallen beings are still there and are still alive, in the sense that they have the power to steal energy from people. What I am asking you to consider as mature spiritual students is to strive to cultivate the consciousness I have described. Now, many of you are in embodiment on Earth because you have, to some degree, fulfilled that bodhisattva ideal, where you hear the cries of the world and you feel compassion and you do not want to leave the earth behind until other beings are free. What I am talking about here is not necessarily your ascension. Earth is a dark planet. Many of the spiritual people on Earth were not among the original inhabitants of Earth, those who took it into a downward spiral. You have volunteered to come here after having embodied on other planets. This did not mean that you ascended from those other planets. It meant that you reached a certain level of maturity, and then you decided that you wanted to step up your service by embodying on a darker planet. Now, you may go in on a dark planet and create a karmic spiral for yourself by fighting, for example, the fallen beings or other groups of people. And this could prevent you from moving on from that planet. But many of the spiritual people have not done so, at least not for many lifetimes. And so there can be a point where even though you're not ready for your ascension, you have a right to decide, I want to move on from the earth. I've had enough of this darkness. I want to move to a lighter planet to complete the process of my ascension there. For truly, Earth is a very difficult planet on which to earn your ascension. So what I'm saying is that you have decided to stay with this planet, most of you, even though you could have moved on. And you have done this out of compassion. But I am asking you to step up your compassion to the Buddhic level, where you attain this neutral, non-attached way of looking at events. It is not that you're not concerned about people. It is not that you do not feel compassion. But you feel the compassion for people without feeling the pain of the people. This is almost the only way on a planet as dark as Earth to earn your ascension. As long as you feel the pain of the people, you will be pulled into some emotional reaction. When you see such dark events unfolding as you are seeing even today in the Middle East, and you allow yourself to be pulled into an emotional reaction, then as long as you have that emotional reaction, you cannot ascend. You are not free. Neither are you free to give the highest service where you are holding a balance, a spiritual balance. You are pulling up on a collective consciousness. And so I am asking you to consider this slight shift